Hello everyone, it's Steve from the Wandering Folk Living History Group here. Just thought I'd take a bit of a departure from our regular posting, which is more text-based, and perhaps do a video on food, given that it seems to be a topic that comes up quite regularly from the people who follow our page and the people within our community. So I'm going to prep some food for tomorrow's hike, and while I do that, I'll explain what I've got and why I've got it. I'll also explain how we store it while we travel. Now, with regards to tomorrow's hike, it's down to just me. Unfortunately, our friend James had to pull out with an illness, so we wish him well. We hope that he is on the mend, and that's also why I'm not out in the 3 or -3 degree temperature tonight. I'm here in this lovely lodge with a chook in the oven and a nice glass of wine. So forgive the modern surroundings. But food, okay. So just before I begin, a little bit of a caveat here. What I've got here works for us, and it works for us in our climate. So what I mean by that is if you are sensitive to a particularly fatty diet, fatty food, and you have some sort of stomach problem with that, this may not work for you. Likewise, what we've got here, we carry this because it's okay to go unrefrigerated in our climate. If you live in a hotter climate, or if you plan to take it out for longer than we do without refrigeration, then you would need to do due diligence on that to make sure that it is okay for you and for your particular usage. With that, what we have managed to dial in here is what we take on pretty much every hike. It's not our end of day meal. I'm not cooking one this trip, so I haven't got one of those. But this is what we take out generally as a template on just about everything we do. One last caveat, I'm also lactose intolerant and celiac. So there are things which other members take out, such as bread, flatbreads. They'll bake flatbreads while they're out, which I can't do. So I substitute that with everything I take out I can carry. So forgive the modern bags, but let's start. So to begin with, cheese is our number one item. We take a lot of cheese out. You want a good hard cheese. This one here is a Manchego sheep's cheese, which is filled with truffle, just because I can. And the beautiful thing about these cheeses is that they're actually better at room temperature. So they taste better when they're warm. Maybe not warm, but when they're not chilled. So a giant chunk of cheese. The food that I've got here would generally do for a 3-day hike. So I'm going to parcel it up as I go. So forgive me as I do this, and package it for tomorrow's hike. The rest I'll take home and I'll eat it at work because it's fantastic food. So for our cheese, we use a waxed linen wrap. These are fantastic, very easy to make. There are several different techniques. You can find them on the internet. You just basically get your cheese and wrap it up as so. You can, if you're feeling particularly pedantic, tie that up with some string, but the wax tends to stick to itself pretty well, and that will hold up pretty well in a pouch. That's item number one. Item number two is salami. Now, dried meat is probably a better description. You can take jerky, you can take biltong, you can take bourbois, you can take basically any dried meat out with you. But we have happened on this local salami, which is fantastic. There's several different varieties. And you can't just take any salami. This is an air-cured product. So what that means is that it hasn't been, it doesn't require refrigeration. You can leave this out of the fridge. They actually sell this on the shelf in its packet. Once it's opened, maybe 3-4 days in nice cool weather. If it's really hot, you might want to give it a bit less than that. But this is fantastic. The other good thing about this is that it's venison and cranberry. It tastes fantastic, and it's also reasonably period correct. They do a duck, they do a wild boar. It's fantastic stuff, and can't speak enough for it. Again, this is enough for 3 days on the trail, considering like if you had an evening meal. But it's so rich and so fatty in a good way that between that and the cheese, you snack as you go, and you find that you end up with with a full belly at the end of the day and heaps of energy as you walk. So as far as storing this one goes, it goes into a linen wrap as well. Now with the wax linen wraps, unless you like leave your food in them and they get really funky over the course of an event, I just take them home and give them a brush down. The food that we get doesn't spoil, so the wraps themselves are in fantastic condition despite having been used many times before. If you forgot to unpack your pack, for example, and you left your cheese or your salami in there and it went foul, you're going to have to chuck that. That's common sense. Please use common sense. Because if there's a place where you don't want gastric distress, either for a day or overnight, it's out there on the trail. Whether that's on a modern hike or a period hike, trust me. From experience with my dietary issues, you do not want that. So tomorrow, I'm going to cover a lot of ground. I'm going to do 40 kilometers or so. So I'm going to take a healthy chunk of this because that's basically between the cheese and the salami. That's my main food for the whole day, including breakfast. I'll snack cold on the trail. So you've got your cheese, you've got your salami. What else? Nuts are fantastic. Now you have to get nuts that were found in the period. That goes without saying. That's going to depend on what period you reenact and also where you reenact. So walnuts are a safe bet for me as an Anglo-Saxon reenactor. They're not the best nuts to eat. They're a bit dry, but really, handful of walnuts into a bag like that, and they make fantastic snacking food, which you can just munch on as you go. You're going to want lots of water to wash them down. Okay, now you can put those in anything you want. I've just got a small linen bag here with a tie on it. Tie it up. You've got your nuts. Brilliant. Next on the agenda would be fruit. You can take either dried fruit, fresh fruit. Again, choose fruits that were available in the period. My favourite are apples. There's a bit of a running joke of getting a photo of me eating an apple at every event, but I find these beautiful little missile apples are perfect. They're the right size. They're always crisp. They're always fresh. Beautiful. So I'll pack a couple of those to snack on as I go. Your other option, of course, is dried fruit. So I have a local supplier who can get me these beautiful dried apple rings. They are absolutely delicious. They're not like the dried apples you get at the supermarket, which are bland, and then once they turn into mushy bland when you start to eat them. When you start chewing into these, they reconstitute with the saliva in your mouth, and they become very juicy and sweet. Beautiful. So what I usually do to save on space is I'll just pack those in with my nuts. This just becomes like a snacking grab bag, similar to a trail mix bag. The other one which I love to pack, which simulates a lot of northern European countries, is dried berries. So these little tackers here are dried blueberries, and they've been soaked in apple juice and then dried out. They are so sweet. It is beautiful to eat these on the trail. They're like popping little M&Ms in your mouth. I'm resisting the urge to eat them right now. The other great thing with these, you can chuck them in a stew at the end of the night. They act like currants in that regard. They're a little bit of a flavour pop and a bit of moisture because they plump back out once they get into a liquid. They're also fantastic with porridge. Now, being a celiac, I can't eat barley. I do take rolled oats, gluten-free rolled oats out on the trail. I understand that rolled oats are not period, but when you're out there in the snow and it's morning time and you've got a little bowl of porridge, it's hard to beat. So you throw through a handful of these little fellas, they plump out in it, then you've got blueberry porridge, and if you're feeling so inclined, you can pack a bit of fresh honeycomb, which you get like a small clay pot, one of the wax linen wraps over the top of the pot, pop your honeycomb in it, put that over, string around the top lip of the pot, and it'll stay put. That's why we take honeycomb instead of honey, because it's a solid. It might, in really hot temperatures, start to leak a little bit of honey out, but it's not like carrying around a sloshing or a drizzling pot of honey. So really, that's about it. That's what I would take, well, that is what I'm going to take. So I've got dried fruit, nuts, blueberries, a couple of apples, and that chunk of salami and cheese that you saw. That is going to do me tomorrow for around about 12 hours worth of hiking. It's really dense food, it's good food, and it's everything that you need. I pack it into a linen bag like that. I know that I can pop that into my my traveling bag, and I know that by feel. So I can fish around in there and I can pull that out and grab my food. And most of the time we'll eat as we walk. You're just kind of snacking all day as you go. So that's it. That's food with the wandering folk, or traveling food. Dinners are a completely different thing, as are our camp food. If we are in a camp or we have time to actually sit down and prepare a meal, they're usually far more elaborate. And even when we hike, we will have a warm meal if there is fuel. So tomorrow, for example, I'm hiking above the tree line. There's no wood, can't have a fire. So in that case, it would have been cold trail rations tonight. I'll get into what we eat overnight in a different video, but I hope you enjoyed this. It's a bit of a departure from the usual. At some stage, I'll probably sit down and type it up for the purpose of having it on record. But if you've got any questions, let us know, and yeah, go from there. Thank you.